he is so black. This is the way I look. I can't change the way I look for me to go after certain opportunities. If someone has a problem with the way do I need to look a certain way? Do I need to dress a certain way? Do I need to? When I quit Google, it was from scratch, right? And when I say from scratch, it was absolutely from some reason. It almost felt a little strange and weird to just see live sport, live cricket.
You have done videos for Cricket Tracker before, and how does it feel to get back to Cricket Tracker this time, not as a host but as a guest?
We're very excited, to be honest. I'm constantly in touch with Sujata and the Cricket Tracker team for something or the other. I obviously follow your content very closely, and it's been a while since I featured on the Cricket Tracker handle, so I'm very happy to be back, and thanks for all the work that you'll do about regarding the game that we all love.
Thank you so much. Speaking about the game, Test cricket has finally started. Before I ask that question, I have to ask you, which is your favorite format?
I don't know if I have a favorite format, to be honest. I think I love all formats of the game. Just by virtue of just being a very ardent student of the game, and at the end of the day, it's the game that we all love, man. Yep. So whether it's Test cricket, ODIs, or the shortest format, to be very honest, it's just love for the game, and we love seeing it in whatever format. Now, the thrill of waking up early morning at 5 a.m. to watch a Test match in Australia and New Zealand, that's something else. And when India draws there, right? So that has its own thrill. Or when you're back home after long days of work, and it's 8 p.m., it's time for a game of T20 cricket, you have that love for that as well. So that brings that its own little excitement in itself, right? And ODI cricket, I think we all respect it for what it is. It's the format that we've all been born and brought up watching for so many years. So and like I said, it's just all three formats put together. And at the end of the day, if it's a game of cricket on TV, I'll be happy watching it.
You've been with Google for 10 years. You've spent so much time there. You've learned so much there. Google is like the dream company for so many people. What made you make the jump? How did you do it?
I spent almost 10 years there. So Google will continue to play a very big role in our lives, and forever indebted and grateful for what it's given us. And to your point, I think because I was able to learn from the wonderful people around me, and sort of it gave the opportunities that came my way for me to try out new things, right? It was that confidence that we took in eventually taking this big decision that we took, right? And like I said, I keep saying that's the hardest decision that we've taken, and I stand by that, because it wasn't easy. Because it's a good company, like you said. You get paid well. You have no reasons to leave, right? And the only reason to leave was the fact that I absolutely love the game. And from a long time, I very keenly followed the journeys of broadcasters, commentators, presenters. And for some reason, I felt like this is something that I wouldn't mind doing. And it gives me some sort of a confidence booster or a high when I hold the mic and I talk cricket. And when I started to do that a little bit at Google, I realized that the feedback that people are giving me is encouraging and it's positive. If anything, it was in the right direction. So with all of that, but absolutely no contacts, no opportunities, nothing. When I quit Google, it was from scratch, right? And when I say from scratch, it was absolutely from zero, right? So, but it was exciting in a way. Not knowing what tomorrow had in store was very exciting. And I guess that's the beauty of it, because in a corporate world, you go to office 365 days and you'll have work for 365 days, and you have a very good sense of what tomorrow has in store. Whereas the beauty about this world, it's a double-edged sword. Some days it can really get to you, the uncertainties, but I guess the fact that you can shape it the way you want to is also beautiful in a way, and it lets you live the life that you want to, I guess, right? So it was a tough call. I think my wife Deepthi pushed me to taking that decision, And like, it's been a beautiful journey.
Who was your inspiration in the commentary box? Who made you want to take this up?
For me, it was Ravi Shastri and Harsha Bhogle.
Wow.
Quite simple. Two contrasting and contradicting styles.
Yes.
For me, Ravi Shastri was all about the hype, was about bringing energy, the enthusiasm, right? And in the final moments of a game, there was a reason why Ravi Shastri was rostered, because it was the emotion that he brought out was sometimes like goosebumps, right? Whether it was even his early days in the late 90s and the early 2000s, right? Ravi Shastri's voice stood out because he was also loud, right? And I think I have a fairly loud voice, a strong voice, and so that's why my style of commentary in a sense sort of was more towards the Ravi Shastri style of commentary, although I'm very, again, nascent in my commentary journey. There's only a few stints of commentary that I've done, but even in terms of my oration. So that's why Ravi Shastri. Why Harsha Bhogle is, there's a reason why he's called the voice of cricket. His storytelling, it's just very poetic in nature. His mastery over the English language and his ability to describe a scene. You may have your eyes shut, or you probably aren't even watching it on TV. It could be a radio coverage, or it could be just an audio stream that you're listening to. But Harsha Bhogle's ability to just depict what he's seeing is almost second to none. There's no better storyteller in the game than Harsha Bhogle.
Then you also had a couple of lucky chances to meet Harsha sir, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. It was, again, very grateful for RCB and the Royal Challengers of Bangalore for everything that's come my way after the 12th Man TV stint happened last year. We were on our way from Bangalore to Chandigarh for our away game against Kings 11 Punjab, and it was the little short bus journey from the terminal to the flight. So we're just there, the whole team is in that, and we're all just like waiting. And then I realized that Harsha sir is also there, because he was part of the commentary panel for the game tomorrow, RCB versus Kings 11. And one of our friends from the RCB management, Nikhil, looked at Danish and said, "Danish, look, nodappa, poor man Bhogle, Harsha Bhogle, Ibru illa idare." And I was essentially saying that poor man's Bhogle and Harsha Bhogle are here. Why don't you just get them to talk to each other? And so Danish, being Danish, just like introduced us. And Harsha sir knew of me, and also because I know his son pretty well, and we've had a few email exchanges and stuff. So it was really good to catch up with him, and obviously then the photo. These are small moments. Harsha sir probably won't even remember this, but for me, it means a lot, and I'm very, very grateful for each of those experiences. And so that's the first time I got to meet him.
What was that experience like, your first day with the RCB team?
I get goosebumps even now thinking of it. I pinch myself when I see a video of myself on RCB's Instagram page or anything for that matter. It feels surreal even now. I am forever grateful for the fact that opportunity came my way. And sometimes I think, Steve Jobs' famous line that you can only connect the dots backwards,
yes,
right? Sometimes ask yourself, how in the world did that happen? And when I quit Google and I had nothing on my plate, no portfolio to show, I realized that, for the upcoming IPL, I'm just going to do this thing called Quick Single, where I summarize a match in 60 seconds because the video limit on Instagram was 59 seconds. So I said, you know what? People don't even have time to watch a 3.5 hour T20 game nowadays, especially if it's one after the other for 45, 60 days. So why not me just summarize a game in 60 seconds? And I called it Quick Single because it's in a single minute and a reference to cricket, whatever, right? So I did that. Even on that day when I was about to launch my YouTube channel, I didn't do it for the views. It barely got any views, barely anyone saw it, but it didn't matter. I had to do it. It was important for me. And so I did it. But even on that morning when I had to launch that YouTube channel, I was very apprehensive. I was very skeptical. And I called up Deepthi and I told her, I really don't want to do this. I don't know why, but I don't want to do this. But the best thing that I did was hit that launch button that day, right? Because that eventually led from me doing the YouTube channel to a little school tournament, and then the Karnataka Premier League happened. And then the big break as a commentator in Nepal in the Everest Premier League happened, right? So that's how it started to snowball from one to the other. And why did RCB eventually say, okay, let's give this guy a shot, was because they were looking for someone who creates digital content, someone who knows the game very well, someone added bonus if that guy is an RCB fan, right? And so they had a few things that they were looking for. And suddenly I realized that what I did several months ago and the stuff that happened after came in very handy, because RCB eventually suddenly came up with this 12th man TV concept. They had a certain requirement and I somehow fit that requirement. And that is the beauty of the world that we live in today, because opportunities can come from anywhere. We just need to stick to doing what we think is right in our little journey, right? We contemplate and deliberate so much. Procrastination, it's just we humans, that's how we are, right? The best decision, even in the little TEDx talk that I talk about it, is just do it. You've already visualized something in your mind. You know what that is. No one's going to understand it the way you do. Just start taking those baby steps towards it, right? And tough days will come, and I speak about that as well. All of that is going to happen. But once you do it, you'll realize there is absolutely no downside to it. And because RCB happened, why did RCB happen? Because they saw that, okay, this guy's done digital content, he's done stints with different people, right? So there's reason enough for us to let him do this for us. And in my mind, that's why I think ICC happened, because they saw me doing it for RCB and they believed that, okay, he probably has what it takes to be done at the World Cup as well. And that's why ICC happened. So you're only able to connect the dots backwards, right? When you're doing it for something ahead of you, you're going to think and wonder whether it's always going to work out. But when you do it, when you look back, it's the best thing that you've done.
There is such a nice lesson. It's not just for me, for anybody who's going to be watching this. It's such a nice lesson. Talking about the RCB 12th man TV again, how was your first interaction with Virat Kohli? What was he like? How was Virat Kohli in real life?
Just like anyone else, to be honest. It's obviously the media that plays a big role in hyping him up the way they do, and maybe for the right reasons, because of everything that he's achieved. I'll be honest, it's not like I had too many conversations with him. Very short, brief, couple of conversations, literally hi, bye, and an exchange and stuff. That's pretty much what I had. But from what I could observe from a distance, he's just like anyone else, goes about his business just like anyone else. And that's my biggest takeaway. The little that I saw of him and Anushka together during the season, it was just beautiful. The one thing though that stands out is his hunger and his thirst to be the best. He has a sickening work ethic that makes him the best at what he does, right? And I think that's what sets him apart. And you just observe that from a distance, and it's inspiring. It's almost like goosebumps, to be honest, because his work ethic is he's just relentless at it, right? So I guess that's one thing that did stand out, but otherwise he's just quite literally like anyone else, happy-go-lucky in the sense that he's just around with people, exchanging a laugh or two, nothing different. I was very lucky to have been invited to their house when he invited the RCB team to their house in Bombay for a team dinner, and we're just having food and just having conversations with a bunch of people, and I'm like, wait a minute, where am I again? In Virat Kohli and Anushka Sharma's house. I'm like, how in the world did that happen? Wow, like life can take you to certain places that you had absolutely no idea.
Talking about the ICC, the digital insider for the ICC for the Under-19 World Cup in South Africa. How did that come up? What was your reaction when you got that phone call?
My immediate answer to your question is that I ran to my wife and I immediately burst into tears, to be very honest, because that's how excited I was. But how did that happen again is again a learning for myself, and I'm glad I did it the way I did. And it's a learning because I'd like to do more of that to create more opportunities for me in the future, is because I remember I had a wedding to go to in Dubai. A very close friend of mine was getting married there, and so a bunch of friends were going, and I was planning out that trip, and I was going to go to Dubai for that wedding. And then I realized that I obviously knew that ICC were headquartered out of Dubai, and that's where the digital team sits and stuff. And a very dear friend of mine who helps me a lot, who sort of mentors me through this career, is works with the ICC, and he said, "Now I'm just happy to connect you to them if you think it'll be helpful." I said, "Yeah, please." So he just did an email exchange, and they obliged, and they said, "I'm happy to meet you for 45 minutes when you do come over," right? And the point that I'm trying to make here is that I could have just gone for a wedding in Dubai and come back.
Yes.
I realized that there's an opportunity for me to just go meet the ICC team for what it's worth. If they say no, so be it. But what if they say yes, right?
Yes.
And so they did say yes, to my surprise. And what I then did was put up a presentation. Like, I spent some time proposing a certain piece of content as a property to them, to the ICC. And then I spent some time in fleshing out that detailed deck and stuff. And so I went there, and in that meeting, instead of it just being a hi and bye meeting, it was me presenting that plan to them, right? I came back, I was quite happy with how the meeting went. This was in November. I didn't hear back for a month and a half. Can you believe it? So in my mind, I assumed it's one out of the several conversations where you try for something, but it doesn't work out. It's the story of our lives, to be honest, in this industry. You'll probably know that, right? So, and then we were on vacation for New Year's with my wife and friends, and I come back to Singapore, and suddenly I get a text from the digital team manager there saying, "Nav, sorry for the delay. Happy New Year. We just wanted to know are you still available for those dates?" And I was like, "Wait, am I reading this right?" Then I run to Deepthi and I'm like, "Sure, this," and I immediately burst into tears. And it was quite literally 7 to 10 days before the start of the World Cup, right?
Wow.
The Under-19 World Cup was starting in 7 to 10 days. It was God's blessing that I was in Singapore, because the processing of a South Africa visa in Singapore is significantly faster than had I been in India. If I was in India at that time, I would not have even gone to South Africa, so I wouldn't have gotten the visa in time. We immediately worked overnight to get all the documents in place. I submitted it. I got my visa that evening at 5 p.m. and I left to the airport right after that for a 9 p.m. flight. The point I'm trying to make there is sometimes you have to just create these opportunities. You don't wait for things to come your way, right? So you do your bit in creating an opportunity, and you leave the rest to whatever has to happen.
Is it a myth, or is it the truth in this day and age? In today, is it necessary that you need to be, complete camera personality if you want to do what you're doing today?
In one line, if I have to answer that question, the answer is no, you don't need to be that. It is quite simple. And the more detailed answer to this, and by the way, you bring up a very, very important question. I have these questions in my own mind. Do I need to look a certain way? Do I need to dress a certain way? Do I need to give a certain image on camera for me to be able to get a certain opportunity? Every other day, I ask myself these questions. It's an industry where glamour is certainly acknowledged. I will say it the way it is. I'm not going to deny that fact. And I think there are certain roles where the glamour quotient of it is much higher than other roles, right? So there are those opportunities as well. The long story short of this is what you bring to the table at the end of the day is the most important thing. If your strength is your ability to articulate the game, or your voice, or the kind of content you're creating, whether it's humor, comedy, serious content, emotional content, anything around the game, ask yourself what your USP is and let that be the most important thing. We live in a world, digital space today, where look at what YouTubers are doing. Look at what some of the big content creators are doing. None of them, no one's a model, but they're just creating content that people love doing, or love watching rather, right? So if you can give something that someone wants to watch, everything else is secondary. right? And that's the biggest message to people is ask yourself, what is it that you bring to the table that might be different to someone else? And if this is content that will be consumed today, I can tell you that platforms are waiting for people who can bring unique content to them. They are not going to look at how you look. They're going to be like, overall, what are you bringing to the table? And if you can give them content that can be sold or that can be consumed by the masses, that is the most important thing, right? And the looks, the presentation aspect will always play a role. The only feedback or the tip that I have is try to look as presentable as you can. You're not going to look shabby on camera. You'll do your bit in making sure you look good.
Yeah.
That's all. This is the way I look. I can't change the way I look for me to go after certain opportunities. If someone has a problem with the way I look, so be it. That's probably not meant for me then, or they have something else in mind. I have something else in mind. That's fine, right? You will get a lot of criticism your way. When I put out my first RCB video, I remember this was a pre-match show that I was doing for RCB versus CSK, the first game of IPL 2019. We were in the Chidambaram Stadium. I finished that video. We put it out. It was one of the first few videos on 12th Man TV. And one of the comments that came up was, "He is so black." That's all. It was just, "He is so black." And for a second, it hit me. I was like, what do I make of this? Right? So you will have people who will come up with all sorts of comments and the criticism is going to come your way, but it is basically what you take and what you deflect.
That does answer my question. My next question, my last question is, for you to start being a broadcaster, for you to be recognized as a broadcaster, for you to make sense to the people, tips that you would suggest the people to start doing immediately?
Take advantage of the digital space where opportunities will come, but you create a little bit of it by yourself, right? So take advantage of the digital world. Just start creating content. That's number one. And number two is like tied to the first one is think about what is it that you're going to do. That's very important.
Yes.
So many things like I just want to be associate. No, it doesn't work that way, right? So you ask yourself, what is it specifically that you want to do with the game? And once you get the answer, you start taking steps towards that. I think that's very important. Never hesitate in asking for help and guidance and advice. There are people out there who are experienced, who will look at it as humans. You know, when someone comes to us for help, I think the human tendency is to always be like, okay, so they feel like I can help them out. So it's that sort of emotion that plays in our mind, and thereby we help that person out, right? So take advantage of that. Reach out to people around you who you think are doing things that you'd like to be doing and ask them questions. Get their knowledge. No one's going to charge you for that, right? It doesn't mean that you want to be Harsha Bhogle, so you text or message Harsha Bhogle and say, "Give me time." You be a little more realistic about how you go about it. Try to understand people in your social network that people can help you out from your contacts, and that's how you build a certain network. Absolutely. Right? So by just figuring out what is it that you want to do and then getting help from the people around you, to my first point, you start doing.
I still want to continue talking about cricket. I still want to continue talking about everything that has happened.
We can go on and on and on, right? Considering it's cricket, right? So we can just go on.
We can just do it, but we have time restrictions, and I have to let you get back to whatever you're doing as well. So thank you so much for doing this. It's been a major pleasure talking to you. Thank you for giving us so much.
Thank you so much, Adarsh. It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me, and all the best with Click Tracker. All the best for everything that you're after. And hopefully we get back to plenty of live cricket later this year, and we get to working with each other a lot more as well.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to cricket and looking forward to speaking with you again. Thank you so very much.